Did you know that you can grow the world's most expensive spice in your home garden? And it's easier than you think. Join me today as I show you how to plant the Saffron Crocus. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and yes, you can grow saffron, the world's most expensive spice. But don't expect that you're going to get rich by growing it in your garden, because it takes a lot of flowers to produce usable amounts of saffron. 50 flowers just to get 1 tablespoon, 150 flowers to get 1 gram of saffron, and generally about 75,000 flowers to get 1 pound of the spice. Today I'll be planting my saffron in 2 of my big pots. Crocus is commonly sold as crocus bulbs, but technically this is a corm. Now, it really doesn't matter whether it's a corm or a bulb. They're both planted in basically the same way. I'm going to start by spreading out all of these corms in my pots. There's 2 primary methods when it comes to planting the corms or bulbs, and I'll show you both. Let's go ahead and start with that pot. Crocuses should be grown in full sun and well-draining soil. The corms really do not like to be waterlogged. In fact, they can rot pretty quickly if they get wet and stay wet. In this pot, I've gone ahead and taken out about 3 inches of the soil, because the depth of the corm generally should be between 2 to 4 inches, and I'm aiming for 3 inches. That'll be where the root end of the corm settles. Most soils are probably okay with nutrients. You should do a test just to be sure, but in pots, they're notoriously deficient in nutrients, and phosphorus can benefit the corms as they begin growing. So I'm using some bone meal to help with this soil. Phosphorus does not move through the soil. It pretty much is locked in wherever you apply it. So I've applied a thin layer over the top, and now I'm just going to lightly work it into this soil a little bit deeper down, because that's where the roots are going to grow, and that's where the plant is going to use this phosphorus. And with that done, now we can go ahead and start placing the corms. The corms are going to be planted relatively closely, about 2 to 3 inches apart. I'm aiming for about 3 inches on these. Now, this crocus is different than other crocuses you might be growing in your garden. I have crocus in my front landscape. You plant in fall and they bloom in spring. And often crocus is the very first flower to emerge in spring. It'll even pop up through snow. But the saffron crocus, it actually flowers in fall. So by planting in late summer or very early autumn, you might even get a harvest in the first year. And that's what I'm hoping for as I plant these crocus. It's very easy to determine how to plant the corms. There's a slight point in the corms that goes up. There's a definite flat spot that goes down. But even easier is to look at these hairy growths. This is the top of the plant. These are the stems from last year. The flat spot is where the roots come out. So the flat root part goes down. These hairy projections go up. And I check to make sure they're all the same way. And now it's ready to fill with soil. I have the soil that I removed from this pot. And now I'm going to carefully cover each of these corms. I don't want them to shift position. If you just poured everything in all at once, you might shift everything to the side. So I start by just hand covering some of these corms. This pot is about 21 inches wide, and I was able to get 22 of these corms into this bed. Now you can see like this one just got knocked over. That's why it's a good idea to try to make sure that you're covering everything so that they stay in the right position. And then once they're covered, we can go ahead and fill the rest of the bed. And so at this point, I just dump in the rest of the soil. Now, this soil has been amended. There's some good nutrients in it. There's some perlite to help with the drainage. And I am going to firm it down lightly just to help everything settle in the soil onto those corms. And this pot is planted. For this pot, I did not remove any soil. Now, if you're planting your corms in the ground, you still have these two basic options. You can dig a trench and lay your corms in and then cover with soil, similar to what I did with that pot. Or you can plant each corm individually using a trowel like I plan to do with this pot. I have a trowel that has the measurements on it. This makes it easier. You can measure the trowel yourself to decide exactly how deep you're going when you use it. And so all I'm going to do is stab a hole down to the depth I want. I'm still going to use the bone meal, but I'm just going to sprinkle some of it into the hole. Then I'm going to take the corm and place it down to the bottom of the hole and then cover with soil. You can see how this is going to be a little more time consuming. We have to do each hole, place each corm. After sprinkling some of the bone meal, and then cover up. So this is going to take a little while. This is the way that many of us will plant our corms in a garden bed that already has other flowers in it, maybe other perennials, because we really can't do much in the way of digging trenches or big holes to put the corms in. So in the spot that we want to put them, we have to do it individually. It takes time, but you can still make sure that you are putting the orientation of the corm exactly where it needs to be and place the corms exactly where you want them to be. I don't really need to firm this soil any because I didn't remove it. It wasn't excessively loose, but I will level it, firm a few of the spots that might be a little bit high. And now the next step is to water. Just like with any other thing we're planting in our garden, we want to water right away. This will help the soil settle around those corms. It'll also signal the corm that it's time to start growing, and the roots will emerge in just a few days. Remember, they don't like waterlogged soil. So if you live in a humid region and maybe it's not too hot, you might not have to water again before the plants start emerging. For gardeners like me in a hot, dry region, at the time that I'm planting, I will need to water again, maybe every 3 to 5 days, but I'm going to physically check the soil moisture before I water to avoid having a saturated environment for these corms. I started with a moist soil, so I don't need a lot of water, just enough to pool on the surface, and then I'll look to see that it's draining down. And that's it, just a few seconds. In another 3 or 5 days, I'll come back and I'll check the soil moisture, but to reduce the amount of evaporation that I'm getting from this soil, there's one more step. I'm covering the soil surface with a light layer of wood chip mulch. If the pieces are too big, I'll toss them out. The plants will be able to grow through this, but I don't want it so deep that it might interfere with some of the young stems. So just light enough to block some of that evaporation and also to help moderate the soil temperature as the days start getting cooler. Now you're ready to grow the world's most expensive spice in your own garden. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.